Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. This is Rock and Roll Spot coming at you with the fourth installment of the weekly TV roundup for the 2014-2015 TV season. Starting off with last week's episode of Arrow, which was the third season premiere. The episode begins with Ollie and Roy and Diggle stopping an illegal shipment of rocket-propelled grenades in Starling City, but also being criticized by the news media as apparently, while crime is dropping, so is the population. At what was the club, Ollie gives Diggle a necklace made of arrowheads for his coming daughter, as it was revealed at the end of last season that Lila, Diggle's ex-wife and still lover, is pregnant. Flashback to 5 years ago, Ollie is trying to escape from Amanda Waller's people in Hong Kong, and continues to be defiant, but is apparently also each time has been stopped by his handler. Back in the present, a statue of the Arrow is unveiled by now Captain Lance, who disbands the Vigilante Task Force, but also states that while vigilante justice will not be tolerated in Starling City, they will not hunt down a hero who has saved the city, who's done what he can to save the city. A new crime boss, Werner Zeidel, declares his intent to kill the Arrow using a new form of, or a new strain, I should say, of vertigo. Flashback. Waller and Ollie talk some about the fact that he is believed dead but to the rest of the world, but at the same time he is now off the island and wants to go home. Felicity, Ollie asks Felicity out on a date, and she says yes, which they go out on. Before the date itself, Ollie as the Arrow, with assistance from Captain Lance, take down one of Zeidel's men, and two, Felicity at her day job meets a man that is looking into hacking into a corporate system. During the date, Ollie begins to open up to Felicity somewhat about Hong Kong, mainly that he was in Hong Kong for a period of time during the 5 years that he was gone. Zeidel attacks the restaurant that Ollie and Felicity are at, and with a rocket grenade, and well, Felicity is injured. Arrow goes after Zeidel, and Zeidel informs him that he is calling himself Vertigo. Moving on, Werner and Arrow fight, and Arrow gets dosed with Zeidel's new strain of vertigo, leading to him hallucinating a fight with himself. Captain Lance also has a small heart attack and ends up hospitalized. Flashback. Ollie is taken to the home of his handler for a new way of getting Ollie to do what Amanda Waller wants, which is basically the fact that Ollie himself won't be punished, but his handler will be, namely by the fact that his handler's child is being targeted. Board meeting at Queen Consolidated. The man that Felicity met is revealed to be none other than Ray Palmer, and he makes his bid for Queen Consolidated known, and also makes it known what it was he was hacking into, and his plans are to basically rebuild Starling City as Star City. Ollie ends up benching Diggle because of his coming daughter. Team Arrow realized that Zeidel plans to blow up a boxing match to consolidate himself as the crime boss of Starling City, as the 3 remaining bosses are all in attendance. Canary shows up to help Arrow and to help Ollie and Roy with Zeidel's men and Zeidel himself, obviously. Zeidel and Roy duke it out, and Roy ends up using some Freon to freeze the bomb. In a flashback, Ollie is convinced to stop trying to escape Hong Kong for the moment. Back to the present, where Diggle Lila has had her daughter, and Diggle, in fact, thanks Ollie for benching him. Ollie and Felicity kiss afterwards, but Felicity calls things off as she just doesn't think that it'll work with the fact that he's kind of taking what I looked at as a Batman approach of Arrow being his true self and Ollie being his mask. After that, Ollie gets a phone call from Barry Allen asking for advice, which leads to the scene with Ollie from the first episode of Flash. Then Canary and Laurel talk, and after Laurel leaves, somebody, an unknown person, shows up and shoots 3 arrows into Canary and knocks her off the top of the building, and she falls right in front of Laurel, who holds her, and it's presumed that Canary is now dead. And that was where the episode ended. First off, the cliffhanger was a surprise. I'm presuming, based on the arrows, that it was Malcolm Merlyn who shot her, who killed her, but that's yet to be known. The setup for the scene from Flash was quite cool. Also, Ray Palmer was interesting to see, and he definitely has some neat toys that hopefully we'll be seeing more of over the course of the season. Anywho, moving on to Gotham. Cobblepot and Gordon talk at Barbara's place as last week's episode ended with Cobblepot showing up at Barbara's place to speak to Gordon. Cobblepot offers to become somewhat of an informant for Gordon, saying that the coming war is all about, in fact, Arkham. A city councilman is murdered, and Bullock and Gordon draw the case. City councilman and his aide are murdered, I should say. Bullock and Gordon go after suspects. The mayor unveils his plans for the Arkham district of Gotham, basically going with what is apparently the plan that the Waynes had pitched before their murder. Cobblepot keeps an eye on Maroni and is reprimanded by his boss for doing so. Gordon talks to Bruce and Alfred about the Wayne plan for Arkham, and it turns out there's a competing plan that is being pitched by Salvatore Maroni. Another councilman, this one on the take first for Maroni, is abducted and burned alive at Arkham Asylum by the same person who killed the councilman and his aide in the beginning of the episode, which were actually on the take of Carmine Falcone. Nigma, in fact, informs Gordon and Bullock that both councilmen had been killed by the same person, as evidence of the same weapon were seen on the bodies. Bullock and Gordon get a lead on the killer and find one just barely miss him, but they also find evidence that link him to the killings. Newspaper clippings about each councilman. However, as I said, he gets away, and further investigation finds out that the person that they had a name for is actually dead, and this is a case of identity theft. Bruce asks Alfred for the Arkham Plan files, looking for links between the councilman and his parents, basically trying to find something that maybe somebody else may have missed. Cobblepot prevents part of a robbery at the restaurant he works at. However, the restaurant owner is murdered by the robbers. Barbara and Gordon have a talk about secrets, and she asks about Cobblepot, and Gordon deflects it, saying it's a work thing, but she also informs him about her past with Montoya. Maroney plans to hit Falcone back and promotes Cobblepot to manager of the restaurant. Cobblepot then informs Gordon that another hit will happen. Fish Mooney tells Bullock how important the Arkham vote is to Falcone, and after doing some checking, Gordon realizes the target of the next hit is the mayor himself. Gordon gets to the mayor's house to save him, ends up fighting the killer, and then him and Bullock save the mayor. However, not all ends well. Gordon and Barbara break up because Gordon won't tell her about Cobblepot, who actually it turns out was behind the restaurant hit to begin with. However, he poisons the gunman he sent in with. He poisons the gunman and then also takes the money. And at the end of the episode, the two Arkham plans are combined into one, which includes a renovation of Arkham Asylum, which was we all know what that can lead to. Another plot point was Fish Mooney auditioning singers, female singers, and there were two that she really liked, and she had them fight it out with each other, and the winner is now her henchwoman, or I don't know what exactly to call her, because they haven't really said what she's going to have her do, so we'll have to see where that goes. Now, moving on to The Flash. Alright, first off, we got Barry running through the city with Francisco guiding him to a fire where he saves the remaining people inside. However, after the fire, he has a moment of being out of breath and just shaky. And he is then called to a crime scene at Hex's gun store, which can only be presumed to be a nod to the DC Western character Jonah Hex, which, well done. Looking at the evidence, Barry claims that it shows that there were a crew of 6 rather than just the one that the surveillance camera showed. Simon Stagg, played by William Sadler, which was great to see him, wins Man of the Year from Central City University, and the event is held up by the crew from the gun store. Barry manages to save a security guard and chase after the crew, only to collapse after they leave. At Star Labs, Barry's gone over, and it turns out that it's an acute form of hypoglycemia. Joe, Wes, and Barry have an argument about Barry's heroics. And it's revealed that the crew of thieves at both Barry and the surveillance camera are right. It is one person who can multiply himself at will. Barry saves Joe from, well, from, as he will be called later by Francisco, multiplex, but gets beaten on by multiplex's multiples. In flashback, we see Barry running away constantly to visit his dad as a child. Joe ends up giving Barry the confidence boost he needs to take on multiplex by basically saying, you know, this is not the kind of thing that the Central City Police Department can deal with, but it is the kind of thing you can deal with. Barry goes and saves Simon Stagg from multiplex. The would-be killer, as I said, dubbed multiplex by Francisco, ends up committing suicide. He charges at Barry once the prime version is pulled away, and Barry moves out of the way, and he goes out a window, but Barry manages to catch his arm, and he forms another hand that pushes Barry's off, and he falls to his death. Joe volunteers to help Barry exonerate his father, having seen the chart that, seen the various things that he has posted on in his lab about the death of his mother. At the end of the episode, Wells ends up killing Simon Stagg to keep Barry safe, as Stagg was fascinated by what Barry can do and wants to harness those abilities. Anywho, good episode. Very interesting. Especially having Wells have a rather ambiguous turn. It should be interesting to see where more of the series goes from here with that. Anywho, moving on to Scorpion. Okay. Begins with the team watching as a Chinese spy gets arrested by Homeland Security. They then leave for a private job that they've taken in Las Vegas. Apparently a casino is down money, and said casino owner wants to know why. Upon getting there, Walter makes a challenge to Toby to not to gamble at all, saying, you know, if he can go the whole trip without gambling, Walter will give him his paycheck. However, if Toby can't go the whole trip without gambling, Toby has to give Walter his paycheck. Anywho, it turns out the reasoning is simple enough. What happens is the dealer had small hands, and therefore he wasn't dealing as quickly, and so less hands played, less profits. So the dealer is fired, and when the job is done, the team makes use of their free time. And as they're about to, the casino gets robbed, with Walter noticing what's going on and remarking that to the guys that the casino's about to get robbed, which gets picked up on the mics. The cops show up. Things are discussed. They go to Walter's room, and once his observation that the casino's about to get robbed comes up, the police go to the crew's suite and find some of the stolen money in Walter's bag. So Walter gets arrested. Afterwards, the team does what they can to free Walter, who ends up in the drunk tank with the card dealer that was fired earlier. The team gets halfway there to the amount of bail, but with only 40 minutes to go, there's only one thing that comes up for Toby, and he puts all $250,000 on roulette and loses it. Paige takes over the leadership of the team. They decide to break into the casino to prove that Walter was framed. Walter figures out how the robbers escaped while talking with the former card dealer. Apparently, there was a storage room which some of the robbers ended up going into, and before that storage room was there, it was a stage, and a magician used to disappear from the stage and end up on the strip, meaning had to be a tunnel of some sort. Walter realizes that's how they had to have gotten out. So Walter begins forming a plan to release himself from prison, not break out. There was nothing damaged. Just like I said, he releases it. Yep, he unlocks the door basically. Toby becomes a distraction for the security teams, while Happy and Sylvester get the information they need off the computers. Of course, things hit a snag when Sylvester is apparently parked in a loading zone, and since Sylvester's in drive, he's not exactly the best at it and is making other drivers mad. And then Walter shows up and takes over the driving. But at the same time, as I said, Toby's being chased throughout the building by security and is stopped by the owner's daughter, who it turns out arranged the robbery as well as the frame-up. And her plan now is to kill the team in the middle of the desert. However, with the text that Toby sent to Walter, Walter called Cabe in, and Cabe saves their butts, but leaves Walter and Toby in the desert to settle their differences, which they do so, and they talk things out while walking back towards Vegas. And Toby pretty much says, half an hour at the in a casino, he'll have money for first class airfare. And that was the end of the episode. Actually, not too bad of an episode. Not as good as I would say, not as good as last week's, but better than the first two episodes. I would say, in all honesty, dealing with situations such as this, where it's where you have with private business or with dealing with government intrigue, that I think is where the show should really focus. But that's my 2 cents on that. Who knows? Maybe they'll get it right and things will pick up. Anywho, moving on. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. A church in Miami has been mostly destroyed, presumably by a fire. The only thing that seems to have survived is a painting, which is completely undamaged. One of the priests says that we'll have to have it authenticated, and another priest says asks if they have to, because it turns out there's alien writing on the back, the same kind that Garrett made and the same kind that Coulson made. Anyway, the team goes to South Beach to, well, steal the painting, and while there, Coulson and May, masquerading as a couple, run into Talbot, who agrees to leave Coulson alone unless he deems it necessary. Which he soon does, though it turns out that Talbot is working with Hydra. Talbot makes Coulson a deal. As it turns out, that Talbot already took the painting into custody. But, exchange, or translation of the writing, at least. Coulson has May look into this before any exchanges happen, and May discovers that Talbot isn't Talbot, but rather Whitehall's right-hand man, using a face mask much like Black Widow used in Captain America 2, the thing that she pulled off. And, yeah. However, the former Agent 33, who was being brainwashed by Whitehall last week, takes the place of May to get Coulson after May is captured. Fitz talks to Hallucination Simmons a bit. Basically, she reprimands him for kind of not, basically for being on the outside of the team. Not, when everyone's all talking, when everyone's sitting around talking about stuff, he just stands around and, arms crossed, doesn't say anything. Anyways, Agent 23, while at the bus to pick up Coulson, sabotages the bus while May is interrogated. Coulson realizes that Agent 20, who he thinks is May, isn't May, and just in time for May to get free. The trick being that apparently he tells her that one of these days they'll have to go get some coffee together. That cup of coffee that they've been meaning to have for all those years. And when Agent 33 says, "Yeah, sure, I look forward to it," well, that's when Coulson realizes she's not the real deal and pops her one. Anyway, Fitz and Hunter undo the sabotage to the bus. Coulson retrieves the painting. May and Coulson back at base, May and Coulson make a contingency plan should Coulson go crazy like Garrett did. And finally, Raina is intercepted by Whitehall, who implores her in a rather painful manner, but not entirely painful, to give him back the obelisk. Good episode. It would have been nice. Well, actually, you know what? No, it was a good episode. Definitely a setup episode, that's for sure. Anyways, moving on to Sleepy Hollow. Starts off with a young girl walking out of the house in the woods. Then cuts to Crane. Well, for one thing, bitching about having to learn how to drive, and then taking the wheel and proving that he seems to have at least studied the Fast and Furious method of driving. Anywho, afterwards, after the driving lesson, Abby and Crane get an Amber Alert text, and it turns out that the mother of the girl was actually Abby's caseworker back when her mother lost custody of her. And so they go to investigate, Um, you know, Abby asking questions, the mother, and whatnot. While looking for the girl, Crane and Abby find a flute made of bone, leading Crane to declare that the girl is in the hands of the Pied Piper. He then relates the tale from the Revolutionary War to Abby after the flute puts her in a trance of another Pied Piper having lured out an entire garrison of redcoats and killing them. Crane and Abby run into Holly, Jenny's antiques connection, who apparently was attacked by the Piper. The three of them discover the Piper's hideouts along with the missing girl. The hideout is blown up by Holly and Crane, and the flute. As the payment plan was Holly gets the flute, Abby breaks the flute in half on accident. It's something like a negotiating tactic. The girl is returned to her parents, and Abby and Crane prepare to go back after the Piper, but they then realize that the girl was actually a sacrifice to the Piper. Digging turns out that once every generation, it's either a case of one girl or all the children die in that family. Crane fights the Piper and defeats him while this is going on, Henry blackmails Irving in the asylum, basically saying, "You've already signed up. It doesn't matter if you're going. What my father has told you. You're already working for me." Also, Henry purchases the flute from an unknowing Holly and crushes the pieces in a mortar and pestle. What he's going to do with them, we don't know yet, but I'm sure that soon enough we will find out. Anyway, that's it for this week. Next week we will be back with the same 6 shows. Also on Saturday we'll have another video for. Video for you. So anyway, that's all I got for now. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Of course, you can follow me on social media. Both links to my Facebook and Twitter are down below. That being said, live long, rock hard.